What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to the Apex Mindset Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about credit versus debit, pros and cons of that. I know there's a lot of people still out there utilizing their debit card when they should be utilizing their credit card. And then we're also going to talk about authorized users and the benefits of that and how that can benefit you if you're in a position to take advantage to increase your credit score.
That's going to be a very interesting topic because me personally, I use my debit card for everything. Basically, don't use my credit card unless I need to. So it's mostly because I'm scared of bringing that utilization up.
Right.
So that's why I use my debit card most of the time. Right. But it's going to be definitely a learning curve, not only for me as well as for you. We're going to learn what are the pros and cons, and let's just dive right into it. What are the pros and cons?
So when you think about debit, you got to think about it being attached directly to your bank account, right? So debit is pretty much cash. And the issue with that is that if you had went to, let's say, a Walmart or a Target, which most people do, they shop at those institutions all the time. If they were hacked like they've been in the past, and let's say you had $5,000 in your bank account, now you've jeopardized that $5,000. Now whoever hacked into that account has taken your $5,000. And now you have to file a report with your bank, right? And the problem is once you file that report, it's going to take up to it can be sooner, but up to 90 days for them to conduct an experiment. Excuse me, not an experiment, to conduct an investigation into that alleged claim. And then while that alleged claim is open, your money is not accessible to you. So let's say that happened on the 29th or the 30th of the month and the first is rolling around and now you have bills.
Got your rent money.
There you
got
go.
Your car note.
So now you're in a huge pickle because you don't have access to your money versus a credit card where credit card has fraud prevention, right? Okay. So if you were to go to Walmart, they got hacked, somebody ran up $5,000 on your credit card, you can call whoever it is, Visa, MasterCard, let them know that was a fraudulent claim, and they'll go ahead and issue you a new card. They'll overnight it or prioritize it to you.
Gotcha.
And you keep going like you never lost a step, right? So like that's important because now you're protecting your finances. You're putting a barrier between you and everybody else.
Well, that's super beneficial.
Absolutely.
I don't want to lose money like that.
Of course.
Yeah, man. And what was it? There was like a couple of years back, Wells Fargo got hacked.
Right. A lot of people got hacked, man.
Yeah, I was a victim. I was a victim.
The truth shall set you free. But you see, it's an inconvenience though. Like if you utilize your debit card, that's an inconvenience to anybody, right? Because now you don't have access to your money. Your account is frozen. Yeah. So you don't have access to it until the investigation is over. So that in itself is a problem versus if you use a credit card and it happened on the credit card, they just cancel that credit card. They issue you another one with new numbers, new security code, etc. And
you file the claim and
they do the investigation and you still have access. So if your credit card has a $5,000 limit, once they cancel that old one and they issue you a new one, you still have access to that $5,000 limit. You can still continue business as usual. So, it's just it's a lot more effective to utilize a credit card versus a debit card. Not to mention that when you utilize a debit card, you don't build credit, right? When you use a credit card, you're building your credit. So you're building your credit, you're earning rewards points, right? You're benefiting from actually using that credit card. You have the fraud protection, like we just mentioned, versus using a debit card where there's no fraud protection, there's no benefit, you're not getting rewards for utilizing it, and it doesn't build your credit score, right? So a credit card is to build credit. A debit card is just pretty much cash.
Yeah, it's not only protecting you, it also protects if, let's say, you have it's going to be my next question. But it also benefits the authorized users in your
correct
in your account.
Correct.
So leading into authorized users, what are the pros and cons or benefits and cons of having authorized users in your account, in your credit account?
So and authorized users, I feel like are not spoken about enough. I don't think people understand the concept and how it works. But authorized users are powerful if you have no credit, right? So if you have zero credit and you're looking to establish credit, the fastest way is to get added to somebody's card as an authorized user. So for those of you that don't know what an authorized user is, an authorized user is when somebody, friend or family, adds you to their credit card, right? So they have a credit card in their name. They add you to their credit card, and now what happens as a result of them adding you to that credit card is that history, their payment history and their age of however long they had that credit card, now reports to you, because they're going to take your name, your date of birth, and your social security number. They're going to give that to their credit card issuer, and then as a result of that, now your credit profile has been created if you have no credit. Right. So that's one of the benefits of being added as an authorized user is if you have zero credit, now you're starting off ahead of 99.9% of people, because most people that have zero credit with no credit profile, once they get added as an authorized user, they're in the high 700s, right out the gate, depending on the limit of the card that the individual has that has added you, and then the age, right? How long they've had that card for.
So if you have no credit, let's say, for example, let's say I don't have no credit. I talk to my mom, add me to your credit card, so I can start building. I don't need the card.
Right.
You could just keep the cards because they will issue a card under your name. I don't need the card. Just stay with the card. I just want the benefits of building my credit.
Correct.
Initially, no credit, added as an authorized user on an account. Let's say the credit limit is 3,500. Utilization is under what, 15%?
10%.
10%.
10%
So
ideally.
let's say that's the scenario. So instantly 720.
Instantly. High 700s. Right. And that's powerful because you're leveraging somebody else's credit to create a profile for you.
I wish I knew this back in the day.
I wish I knew it too, but for me, I would have never been able to benefit from it because my parents weren't, about credit. My siblings weren't about credit. Everybody that I was affiliated with never talked about credit. So I don't think that it would have benefited me because I wouldn't have anybody to resort to. So, but I know there's a lot of people out there that do have parents, friends, family that are in a position to help them, and they can definitely leverage that, right? Leverage somebody else's credit profile, their history, to create a credit profile for yourself, and then be up in the high 700s. So now when you go to apply for credit on your own, right? So like let's say you get added to as an authorized user to somebody's credit card, like your mother, your father, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Now you've jumped up into the 700s. Now you can go apply for your own credit card and have a high approval rate. Correct. Where now you can go out and get it. Versus if it was reversed and you had zero credit and try to apply for a credit card, they would have instantly denied you.
Like it has happened to me.
Yeah.
But then again, touching back on what you said, like my parents never taught me about credit. I had a conception of what credit was, and it was like an untouchable thing. Like they protected it so much, but they never like taught me what it is, how to create your own credit, how to build your credit, what can you use your credit for. I learned that little by little, but I learned the wrong way.
Right.
I was
the hard way. The hard way.
Oh, free money?
Right.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Right.
Apply for everything. Now then my credit just dropped.
And that's one of the issues that we face, man, as a community, is that we're plagued with misinformation, with disinformation. We're not taught these things, so we're automatically at a disadvantage. But at the end of the day, now in 2025, we're in the age of information, right? We have supercomputers in our phones. So there's no longer an excuse for ignorance. So if we don't know something, we can literally pick up our phone and search it. We have the web, we have AI, we have we have YouTube. So we have a resource that we can go to actually gather this information and have some discernment of how we move in the future. So this information wasn't readily available back in the day, but it is now.
it's accessible. It's very accessible. It's like you have it in your hand. All you
Right.
have to do is type.
Absolutely. And it's right at your fingertips.
It's a no-brainer.
It's right at your fingertips. But I will mention this is authorized users is a double-edged sword, right? If you have zero credit, it can benefit you by creating a profile for you, right? And skyrocket your score into the 700s. But there's also a caveat to that. So like if let's say your mother adds you to her credit card, and because she's the primary, right?
Mhm.
She owns that credit card. It's her credit card, and she's added you. Let's say, for instance, she misses a payment or she maxes that credit card out
Correct.
because, and when those things happen, her score is going to go down as a result, and so will yours because you're added to that credit
You're an
card.
authorized user.
So it's important to understand how this nuance works because you could be the on the other side of that where if somebody does make a late payment or max their card out for whatever reason, you will take a hit, and then that hinders you from going out and getting credit or seeking whatever it is that you need in the future. So when you get somebody to add you as an authorized user, it's just, it's important to do your due diligence. Ask them how long have they had the card, how often do they keep high balances. Ask questions like this so that way you can protect yourself.
Yeah, because definitely and credit age is very important.
Correct.
And that will set you for success if it has a, what would you say, a 10-year minimum?
Well, anything over 4.5 years
Okay.
has the most effect.
Okay.
Right. So, and we'll talk about this in a separate video. It's a whole nother video in itself, but there's what's called the credit pie chart, right?
Okay.
And that credit pie chart breaks down the different metrics on how your 3-digit credit score is generated, right? Payment history is one of them, credit card utilization, new credit inquiries, and age, right? So age is 15%, which equates to 82.5 points of your credit score. So that's why when you get added as an authorized user to a credit card, the longer it's been open, the higher your score because age is 82.5 points, right?
Gotcha.
So out of 550 points, so when you look at the FICO model, the FICO model is from 300 to 850. So if you take 850 minus 300, you get 550. That's where the 550 points come from, right?
Okay.
So those 550 points are divided amongst the metrics that I just explained. And 15% is 82.5 points. So whenever you close an account, right, and we'll talk about this in another video as well, whenever you close an account early, so let's say for an example, you have a car loan for 5 years. That's average, right? When somebody goes out and gets a car loan, they'll get it for like 5 years. So let's say you came into an inheritance or your mother, your father said, hey, let me give you a big chunk of money. And you were like, okay, cool. Now I can pay off my car. So instead of letting the car loan go its full length of 5 years, you pay it off in year one because you got access to the capital. What happens is when that car loan hits your credit for 5 years, it's already built into the algorithm for that. So the minute you pay it off in year one, you have affected the age on that account. You shorten that account that's on your credit report for 5 years, you shortened it to one. So as a result of you affecting the age, your score goes down. So this is why a lot of people, when they pay off accounts early or cars or whatever early, their score goes down. They don't know why. It's because you're affecting the age on that account. So I always suggest if you have the capital, if you open up a car loan for let's say 20,000 and you get access to the capital by means of yourself, bonus, whatever, gift, whatever the case may be, and you have the urge to pay it off, just pay it down, right?
Okay.
So keep it open the 5 years so that you can reap the 15%, which is the 82.5 points, so you can have a higher credit score. So keep it open the full term, but pay it down to less than like 5% so that you can eliminate the interest.
Gotcha.
Because when you open up a car loan for 5 years, the first 3 years, the majority of your payment is going towards interest.
Okay.
Right? So when you make a big chunk payment, you eliminate the interest in the front end and you don't have to worry about it on the back end. You can literally make $1 payment, $1 until that account's paid off. Right? So for an example, you have a $20,000 car loan. You just opened it up, and let's say a month later, you come into an inheritance, or you come into some money.
You hit the Powerball.
Right, you hit the
You play
Powerball.
the lottery. You struck lightning.
Right, so you're like, all right, let me pay this off now that I have the money. Instead of paying it off, you just finance 20,000, pay 19,000. Right, leave $1,000 balance, and for that $1,000 balance that's left over the 5 years remaining, just pay $1 a month on it. Right. So you know what you've done when you made that $19,000 payment, you have eliminated all of the interest. So every time you make a payment is going straight towards principal. So you can literally make $1 payment for that 5-year term and keep it open so that you can reap the benefits.
The bank will definitely contact you. Hey, you want to pay this off already?
I mean, the bank's not going to be happy, but we got to learn how to play the game, man.
I mean, that's how they get you with the
Absolutely,
interest.
it's interest, man. Interest.
It's low interest, just 4.8.
And the interest is always front loaded. Whether
Yeah.
you get a mortgage, whether you get a home, a auto loan, it's always front loaded. So that's why those first 3 years of the auto loan, 70-80% of your payments going towards interest. You wipe all of that out when you make that lump sum payment. So
that's very interesting.
yeah, I always advise people to do that, man. Instead of and just like you have people that are like cash buyers, right? Like, I want to go buy my car cash, like blah 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 blah. All right, cool. I get it, right? If you have the 20,000 in cash, you want to pay for it. You don't want to note. But if you move strategically, if you learn how to play the credit game, and you finance, let's say you have the 20,000 cash and you finance the $20,000 car. Let's say you put down 5,000, you finance the 15,000. You have the 15,000. Wait 30 days for it to hit your credit report, and then make a big chunk. You have a $15,000 balance, pay down 14,000, and just use that the thousand remaining. Just pay $1, literally $1 every single month until that thing is paid off. And some people are gonna be like, "Well, how is that possible?" So let me tell you this, right? If you have an auto loan, even if you have a mortgage, let's say your monthly payment is $200, right?
Gotcha.
So in January, I got to make a $200 payment to my car loan. But if in January you made $400 payment instead of year 2, when your statement produces, it's not going to ask for a payment for February because you made 2 payments in one.
Correct.
Right? So when you make that $14,000 payment, it's not going to ask you for another payment for 3 or 4 years down the line because you've already covered all of that time.
Correct.
So you can literally just make $1 payment, right? Just to knock down the balance strategically until that thing is paid off so that you can reap the benefits of the age.
That's some good information.
That's sauce, right there.
I was gonna use a different expression, but for the podcast sake,
that's right. That's sauce, man.
But that is actually very interesting.
Right, that's sauce. So we just have to understand how to play the credit game. The credit game is powerful if we know how to leverage it, man.
Yeah.
And the more information, the more you get subjected to information, and the more you apply it, the more that you can see that these things work. And you can just strategically, we're not doing anything illegal here, right?
No.
We're just moving strategically to benefit us, and then, do what we got to do to get ahead.
And credit it's interesting, and it is, well, to me, this is my personal opinion. It's interesting, but it's like frustrating at the same time because there's so much.
It is.
I don't know how you retain all this information in your brain. But man, I mean, I'm knowledgeable in a lot of things. Credit is not one of them.
Right.
I mean, the only things I know, the little bit that I know, is because I've learned from you throughout the years of friendship we have. But man, it's you guys will definitely reap the benefits because it is if you guys are starting off a business, that's a whole different ballgame when it comes to credit.
Right.
Personal credit and business credit is totally different.
And in my opinion, I feel like that's done by design. You know what I'm saying? I feel like when it comes to finance, credit, budgeting, I feel like it's made hard on purpose because a specific population of people are not going to understand certain vernacular or verbiage when it comes to finances, right? So like the disenfranchised people, because they don't have the education, they don't understand this stuff. So when they
Correct.
are presented with it, it's overwhelming most of the time,
It
right?
is.
It's a lot. It's a lot of information to try to digest if you don't understand. It's like speaking Chinese. So it's done like that on purpose so that the rich can stay rich and the poor can stay poor. So like for me, it just took repetition over and over and like going through and breaking down the information by, from the macro to the micro and understanding it to a point where now I can explain it like if I was talking to like a 2 or 3 year old man.
But then again, your credit journey has been years now, so
Absolutely, man.
it's a lot of
Over like 20 years,
it's
man.
a lot of
All
research and
right.
studying.
Yeah. And I was a victim of bad credit, man. I'm like your quintessential, didn't have any credit knowledge, got into predatory loans early, maxed out my credit cards early, didn't have any guidance, man. I got repossession and, so I went through the journey, so I know how those things feel. And now that I was able to, I had that epiphany, that moment where I was like, enough is enough. Because when you have bad credit, and you don't have a license, you're like in the middle of the ocean without a paddle, right? Because nobody's gonna help you, nobody's gonna insure vehicles for you, nobody's gonna co-sign for you because they know you have a history of bad, payment history. So nobody wants to deal with you. So you have to make a sound decision yourself to change your habits, to learn as much as you can, so that you yourself can be your own savior because nobody's coming to save you. So when I had that moment where nobody was there for me. Nobody would have co-signed for me. Nobody would insure a car for me. Nobody would do anything for me. I had to look at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, it's your fault, nobody else's. So I had to hold myself accountable. And then I had to have an action plan as to how I was going to get out of that current situation that I was in. And that was through education. Like I need to fix my own credit. I need to find out as much as I can about this credit game because that feeling of somebody telling you no, hey, can you co-sign for me? No. Like that feeling, I still know what that feeling feels like. Like it's still vivid in my mind to this day, which is what my motivation was to learn as much as I can so that I can put myself in a position to win.
To where you
Eh,
currently stand.
right,
Yep.
correct.
I mean, I feel you on that. I definitely relate. I went through the struggles as well. I mean, I still go through the struggles. It's a day to day thing. But when it comes to credit and getting cosigns for like a car, when I was younger, yeah, that was a big deal. I would not, and I definitely misuse my credit. Like I bought a TV because I wanted a flat screen TV. I want to be the first one in the friends group in the neighborhood to have one in their room to play PlayStation and watch the Fast and the Furious on repeat.
Mm,
And I did it, but I was making my payments late. So my credit was starting taking a hit. Before I even had a credit score, I had a negative credit score
right.
just by making the payments late. I did pay it off. Like I did went the full extent, paid it off. But it's that late payment what really
right.
hit my credit hard.
And
And be
late payments will do that.
and because of that, I wasn't able to get a co-signer for a car.
Hmm.
I mean, eventually when I started getting more mature, yes, I did get a co-signer for a car. That one got repossessed afterwards. That's a different story for another
Mm,
video. But and it's not because of payment, is I lost my job
mm.
back then. But yeah, definitely credit is important. And if you're young, you're watching this podcast right now, definitely take notes. Definitely learn from our mistakes and especially learn from his experience,
Absolutely.
his knowledge. He's the one that taught me and others within the friend group. So
And a key thing to take away here is that most people think that when they get bad credit or when they have bad credit or they make mistakes that like it's over, right? So like because I was ignorant at the time and I experienced my repossession and my maxed out credit cards, I didn't know any better. I didn't have access to information. So I literally had to wait 13 plus years to rebuild and reset, right? So the statute of limitations is pretty much 10 years. right?
Okay.
And it depends on, it varies state to state, but on average, it's about 10 years. So if you have a repossession, it comes off of your credit organically after 10 years, right? If you have a charge off, if you have a collection, if you have any negatives, any derogatories, and all those things start to come off your credit report after the 10-year mark. So that was me. Like, I waited the 10-year mark and these things started to fall off. And as a result of them falling off, I had a secure credit card at the time and I was making payments. So that's what was helping my score go up. So I went out of like the 430 range and then went up to like the 650 range. And I didn't know why. It wasn't until like I viewed my credit report where I was like, okay, well, the repo's not on there. These charge offs, these credit cards, like everything fell off.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to piece things together. And then while I was still utilizing my secure credit card, making payments, paying it down to zero, not carrying over a balance, they eventually changed that secure credit card to an unsecured credit card. So now, when you have a secure credit card, and for those of you that don't know what a secure credit card is when you go to the bank or a credit union and you put up your own collateral, you put up your own money, right? So if you have zero credit, this is one of the ways you get started. Is you go to a bank, a local bank or credit union, and you say, "Hey, I want to apply for a secure credit card." Pretty much, on average, the minimum is 300, but you can put as much as you want because that's your own money that you're going to be using. So you give the bank that 300, 500, 1,000. Now they're going to report that activity to the credit bureaus.
Correct.
So this is what generates your report if you don't have one, right? So your payment activity on that $1,000, let's say, if you utilize that wisely, they'll report that activity out. So now you're building credit. And then after a year, they'll send you a check back of your $1,000. They'll send that money back to you. And now they'll convert it to unsecured, meaning the bank has now given you their
OPM.
money. Right. They're giving their money. And now you're using their money. So when that sleight of hand happens, your credit goes up because secure credit cards get reported as secure credit card. So like if you came to me looking for an auto loan and you had a secure credit card on your credit report and I pull your credit report, I can see that you have a secured credit card.
Okay.
It says it.
That I didn't know.
Absolutely. It says it. Just like as an authorized user. When you come to me and I pull your credit and you have an authorized user, I'll know because it says authorized user account, right? So when they switch that from secured to unsecured,
It's a different ballgame.
that drives your score up. Yeah, absolutely.
It gives you more status.
Right.
per
Gives
se.
gives you more leverage.
Yeah.
Right. So you'll see that it increase in your score. So it's important. I mean, you got to start off where you are. Secure credit cards is a good way to go. Secure loans is a good way to go. If you don't have the fortunate person in your life that has good credit and that will add you as an authorized user, in my opinion, I always tell people to go the secure route. There are a multitude of ways that you can get your credit going, but I always encourage people to do secured.
Which is what's the app? I think we mentioned it before.
Like credit builders.
Yeah.
So you have accounts that you can put on as like starter accounts, which are like kickoff, self, credit builder accounts that will add these primary trade lines to your credit report to generate it and to add depth. But and that's a good way to get started too. So if you don't have the capital, right? So if you don't have an authorized user that will add you to their credit cards, that's cool. If you don't have the capital, the collateral to put up to get the secure credit card, that's cool also. You have credit builder accounts like Self, Kickoff, where you can pay a subscription based fee, 20, 30 bucks, 50 bucks every single month, and they'll report a primary trade line to the bureaus that will generate your score for you. So there's a plethora of things that you can do to get your profile started. It just comes down to the information that you have and the research that you do to put yourself in a position. Because for those of you that are listening, credit is king. Credit is the future. I say it all the time.
There's a misconception about cash being king.
Yeah, no.
Credit is the way to go.
Cash reigns supreme in certain instances. And I always I always use like real estate as an example, right? Because cash reigns supreme in real estate. So if you were selling a property for 500,000, and I say, hey, I got 450,000 cash, right now I'm leveraging my cash as a bargaining opportunity.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have to leverage.
Right. Because when you say cash, I'm like, oh, you know what I
The
mean?
winning hand.
Right. So cash is king in that instance. But every other instance, like I mean, if you go to, and there's some spots here in Florida that are already going cashless, but Ohio, like 70% of the businesses are cashless. They don't accept cash. Like it's all credit. So we're going into a digital age, and we see this with crypto, right? With NFTs. We see this with like the blockchain. So these things are like happening because they're pushing us towards this digital age where we no longer need cash. And cash is considered fiat currency anyway, meaning that it's backed by nothing and it's essentially worthless. The only thing that gives cash value is the fact that you believe in it, right? So the only thing that if you take $100 bill, it's not really worth $100 bill. It's only worth the 4 cents that the paper that it's printed on, but because it's not backed by nothing. So when Nixon took us off the gold standard, right? So there used to be a currency that was called the greenback, and the greenback was a currency that was backed by gold, right? So it limited its production and circulate. It limited the amount that the government can print, right? Which controlled inflation. But when Nixon took us off the greenback, off the gold standard, now the government can print money at will, which the more money you print, the less it's worth because it's backed by nothing. So now you have this hidden tax that's called inflation. And then and then now you got to consider the fact that the United States government used to print its own money. But now they've outsourced that to the Federal Reserve, which is a private entity. Even though people may think that the Federal Reserve is a federal government agency, they're actually a private owned entity run by bankers. So now you've transitioned the responsibility of printing money for the United States from the government over to a private institution, and now you've given them the value to regulate the money. And as a result,
ladies and gentlemen, that's how inflation occurs.
That's inflation, man. And we got to think about. That's why saving money is not what you should be doing. I try to limit the word me utilizing the word should because everybody's grown; they can do whatever they want. But when you save money, your money loses value just by sitting in an account. So I encourage everybody, right? If you have a savings account, let's say with Bank of America, for an example, right? And you have $100,000 in that savings account, you are only earning 0.01% interest on your money, right? So if you take out a calculator and you take 100,000 times 0.01, hit the percent key, is going to tell you how much money Bank of America is giving you per year on that $100,000, which is nothing.
It's like Robinhood. They have the Robinhood Gold, and this is not a paid promotion, by the way. But they when you open up that account, Robinhood Gold, you get 4%, 4% of interest.
Right. So
that's the highest I've seen personally.
Some and this will be another video, but you can do money market accounts.
Okay.
Right. You have Fidelity, Charles Schwab, you have, Vanguard. So and depending on which brokerage account you open up, you can do 4%, 6%, 8%, whatever the market is at the time. But the difference between a savings account and a brokerage account is compound interest. So for those of you that don't know what compound interest is when interest adds up on top of interest, right? So this is what's called compounding. So let's say you have $1,000, right? For simplistic numbers, right? So $1,000 that you open up a brokerage account with.
Yeah.
And let's say that brokerage account offers 4%, like you mentioned, right? So that means within 12 months, you're going to get 4% on your $1,000, which is 400, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, your $1,000 is now going to be 1,400, right? So that's after year one. After year two, because the first year you accrued 400. So year two, if you keep the same amount, the interest is now on the 1,400, right? So it's going to be a slightly higher. Let's just say 500 for simple numbers, right? So year two, you're going to earn on the 1,400 that you have in there. Let's say it's 500 instead of the 400. That 500 on year two is going to be added to that 400 from year one. So that now that's 900 added to the 14.
Gotcha.
And then now that 14 becomes 24. And then you see how, right. So you see how it compounds, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you do that over 30, 40, 50 years. How much this is what the rich and wealthy do, dude. This is what the rich and wealthy do. And then when they turn 64, 65, whatever, when they decide to retire, they have millions of dollars sitting in their brokerage accounts. Right. And you can do the same thing with Roth IRAs, so on and so forth. Right. So we just gotta understand that money is a game. And if you put money in a regular savings account, you're doing yourself a disservice. Put it in a brokerage account that's earning more. The rule of thumb is you want to put your money in a vehicle that is going to meet or beat inflation. And inflation is generally 3% each year. So you need something at 3% or more.
Gotcha.
In order to not lose.
Correct.
Because if you just save your $100,000 in that Bank of America account, that money's going to be worth less the next year.
Which it makes sense.
Because of inflation.
Which it makes sense.
So only broke people do this. I hate to say it that way, but only broke people put their money in regular savings account.
Me open up an account.
You know, and they don't, you know what I'm saying? So like definitely, you know, do your due diligence, get a brokerage account, have the money come out. Like a lot of people do 401ks, right? Where your money automatically comes out of your paycheck. You don't even see it. Do the same thing with a brokerage account.
But you can do the same with the Roth account.
Correct.
It can come out of your paycheck.
Come out of your paycheck, you never even see it.
But the difference is it's accessible when you need it.
Correct.
You don't have to, like a 401k, they'll limit you on when you could access it.
Yes. And then if you access it before a certain age, you get penalized.
Correct.
Right. So they hit you with taxes.
But a Roth, you don't get that.
Correct. And neither with a brokerage account.
See, I'm learning, people.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
So that's why a 401k, in my opinion, is a joke. I would never do a 401k. Your money just.
See, I mean, I got one because of my job.
But that's all right, right? That's all right. But as you start to learn what an actual 401k is, why it was created, and the fact that it's so a 401k is essentially you putting money into this account, right? And then somebody else is investing that money for you.
Correct.
Right. So think about you as the beneficiary of someone else investing your money. Right. So that means that you don't know enough about money to manage your own money. So you have somebody else doing it. So who's going to look after your money better, you or somebody else? You know? So that's just a rabbit hole in itself, man. So just be mindful of these vehicles that you're utilizing. Do your due diligence, do your education, and look into the brokerage accounts, look into the Roth IRA accounts, look at the returns, look up compound interest, couple that with credit.
So tip of the day, people, scratch 401k, get into brokerage accounts or Roth IRAs.
Correct.
That's the way to go.
Because if you open up a 401k, you're going to be penalized. It's a fact. Like you will be penalized if you pull out your money early, right? So,
which is like a 25%, right? I know Vanguard.
I don't know.
Sorry, Vanguard. But I believe Vanguard is a 25%.
But look at that. That's astronomical, dude. And I'll touch on this, and we can go in depth.
I mean, don't quote me on that. I think.
No, well, it's high. It's high. The moral of the story is it's high, yeah, right? It's a high interest.
I think if it's not a 25, it's a 15, something like that.
So while we're talking about taxes, like this is why I encourage people to borrow, and this is what the wealthy do, right?
Mhm.
So this is why I stopped flipping houses, right? Because I would buy a house for cheap, let's say 100,000. I put 100,000 in it, it'd be worth 500,000. I'd sell it and get the $300,000 difference, right? But what happens is when I do that, I now have to pay a capital gains tax on that 300,000, and that's 30-40% depending on my tax bracket. So now Uncle Sam wants their 90, 100 or whatever that comes out to, right? So now I'm left with, let's say, 190 to myself. Versus, because I have to pay tax on that money if I sell it for a profit. Versus me buying the property for 100,000, putting 100,000 in it. Now it's worth 500,000. Now I just borrow against the equity. When you borrow in the form of a loan, you pay zero in tax. Zero. This is what the wealthy do. This is what Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk do. They get paid in stocks, right? And then they borrow against the value on that stock. They don't get a salary. So they don't pay employment tax like the average W-2 employee. This is why Trump's on record saying I don't pay taxes. This is why Mitt Romney is making $25+ million a year and paying 25,000 on 25 million because they understand the tax code and they understand that how money works. So once you start diving deeper into how money works, you realize that assets are always going to appreciate in value over time and you never sell them. You just borrow against them in the form of the equity that has grown. So
Wow.
yeah, so if you buy a property for
That's
200,000, 5 years later it's worth 500. That 300,000 you can borrow and not have to pay a penny in tax.
crazy.
Oh yeah,
That is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. That's the credit game right there, man. That's the finance game actually. Can't even lie,
Hey,
it's a finance game
well,
right
these our viewers are definitely going to enjoy and benefit, reap the benefits of this
there.
podcast.
For sure, absolutely.
And this is not the only one. So we have a whole lineup of episodes that we want to record and put out for you guys to benefit you guys, give you guys the knowledge, and hopefully you could take something away from this and learn and better your financials and better your future, better your family's future. And but yeah, that's the goal we have in mind. And we got some pretty interesting podcast episode coming up that we're gonna just sprinkle, just sprinkle.
We're gonna
We're just gonna
sprinkle it on.
sprinkle little by
Right,
little
right.
this information, and then we're also working on some special guests, some
Correct, correct.
entrepreneurs that are killing it in their own field. But
Right.
I think we should just leave the rest for the other episode.
I hear that. This episode right here was action packed. Like Tonio mentioned, we do have some high end guests that are going to be coming on the platform to discuss a variety of things in terms of entrepreneurship and business. But for the most part, this podcast or this series rather is going to be focused.
This
We're
series.
gonna educate people on credit, how to leverage credit, how to build personal credit, business credit, etc. So that way you have a resource that you can utilize to get ahead in life, to start that business, to buy that first property, maybe the first one in your family that's going to be a homeowner. Like these things are not outside of our grasp. So this podcast, this series, we'll give a lot of information to give people the insight on what they can do to like make these dreams a reality, man. Especially in our community.
Definitely, especially,
Yeah, especially in our
especially.
community, man.
And there's a lot of things that people could do, like whatever is your passion, whatever. If you want to start a podcast, if you want to start a side hustle, a business, an apparel line, a shoe line, this information will definitely benefit you
100%.
at the beginning of your at the start of your journey and throughout the whole way of your journey.
Right. Right. And it's it's important because I didn't have a resource, a YouTube channel, a podcast to revert back to when I was coming up as a reference, as a guide, as information, right? So we're in an age now where this information is out there And everything that I talk about from direct experience. So I know it works. I applied it, and it's
Correct.
worked for me. So, those of you that are going to tune in, just take notes, everything that was said, research it, and then have a plan that you can apply that will get you the result that you need to based on the information that was given.
Right.
So,
And if they have any questions, if you do have any questions,
absolutely.
just drop down on the comment
Right.
section. Ask us. I'm constantly checking it. Just ask us anything you want to hear, anything you want to learn.
Mhm.
We'll definitely incorporate that in the next episode.
100%.
And we could probably do that. We could probably do like a whole video just answering questions.
Q&A. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah,
We could go
absolutely.
live.
Go live
We
and
could go
answer
live.
questions 100%.
Whatever you guys choose,
100%.
we're there for you. And if you have any questions, like I said, just drop them down on the comments or just reach out through our social medias. We're gonna put them down below. And just reach out to us. We'll definitely here to help you answer any questions you may have. I got my business is an apparel line, so if you have any questions regarding that, Danny has Danny has
If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. That's what we're here for. We're here to
Danny is
help.
an expert in a lot of
You know.
fields, so definitely.
So if you found this episode helpful, if this was informative to you, if you could please share it with somebody that may need it or may be of value to them, subscribe to the channel. This credit series is going to be robust. It's going to be comprehensive. It's going to be cumbersome. We have a lot of information to cover. So if you or anybody else needs this information or finds it of value, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Again, comment with any questions, any future videos that you may like to see so that we can produce that content for you and answer those questions for you. And then also you can follow us on social media to kind of, follow us to see what we're doing on a daily. And then, yeah, just tune in. What are we doing? What day can these people expect us to be uploading?
I would say every Thursday.
Every Thursday, expect an upload. So if you hit that bell notification, you'll be notified exactly when we upload a new video. So that way you can tune in, tap in, and get that info that you need.
So just to be more specific, every Thursday, I would say let's shoot for 7. People get out of work. 7:30 Eastern time. There's going to be a new episode waiting for you guys to enjoy and then hopefully provide you with the information, useful information that you could be able to apply to yourself, or if you know somebody that needs this information, they could apply it to themselves as well.
Let's go.
But this is the end of this episode.
You already know.
Stay tuned, people.
Until the next one, my beautiful people. Peace.